Call to order City of Port Richey Council meeting Tuesday, August 8th, 2023. I'd like to invite Danny Fields to the certification.
Father, we just come to you in the wonderful name of Jesus, Lord, and we just lift up City Hall and all the board members here and all the stuff that's on the agenda. And you said in Psalms 33:12, America would be known and blessed, a nation would have God. And Lord, and as I think about that, I think about when we talk about the Pledge of Allegiance, in God we trust. So I just thank you, Lord, that we get to pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States. And so it's an honor, Lord, to be here to pray to you and pray for the city and the people here and for the stuff that's on the agenda, Lord. So we got the consent agenda, the business, Lord, for the board members and for the purchase of the pipe supplies at the key line at Cody River and the meters, the installation, and for all this stuff that's on here, Lord. There's so many things that's going to be talked about. Just give us wisdom and guide us, Lord, in every department. That's really what I want to focus on, each department. Lord, I just thank you for every team here, Lord, and the police, code enforcement, the fire department, and all the needs and the stuff, and the team that works there, the lawyer, the mayor, the assistant mayor, and Lord, and all the city workers, Lord, they're out there in this heat. Just keep them cool and safe, and may they enjoy their day. And we just ask for continued blessings with wisdom in Jesus' name. Amen.
Mayor John Eric Hoover.
Here.
Vice Mayor Todd McClary. Councilman Tom Kinsella. Let the record show that Councilman Tom Kinsella is absent from tonight's meeting. Councilwoman Linda Rodriguez.
Here.
Councilman Bill Colombo.
Here.
City Attorney Nancy Meyer.
Here.
Interim City Manager Sal McCary.
Here. Thank you.
First up, we got the council meeting minutes from last meeting.
Looking for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second. Motion second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, I can open up to the general public. I've got a few signups. We'll start with Daniel Fields. Welcome.
Danny Fields, and my address is 8114 Leo Kid Road there. And I just wanted to, again, thank you for your servitude. Light of the World, Leonard, and Somebody Cares, we're so grateful for your leadership and for what you do in the community here and the teamwork that you have and the wisdom that you bring to the city. And so I'm grateful personally to be a part of working with you. And we know that this is a place where we're really seeing improvement through your leadership and through your teamwork. And so Leonard told me to just remind you he's grateful too, and we are as the people that live here and that have businesses here and work here. So I speak for them as well as myself and my family, and we're grateful because sometimes we have tough decisions, but through teamwork and through the council, we make the best decisions together as a people. And so I do got some stuff coming up that I want to invite you to. So on 8/16 at 12 o'clock to 2 o'clock at Calvary Chapel, 6825 Trouble Creek Road in Newport Richey. We're having a meeting there with Somebody Cares and Light of the World with that church, and there's business people to come together and communities working to make this a great place in Florida. Now that's Newport Richey, but there's going to be people from Port Richey there. So it's where we're learning to work together, like the police and the fire department work together on calls and stuff like that. So we can learn from them. I've heard in the meetings, we could learn stuff from them. They can learn stuff from us. So these are good things to really incorporate together if you are willing to come to that. And so that will be coming up. And then at that same day on 8/16/23 at 7 o'clock p.m. at Light of the World, we're going to be having a transformation video. We're like in Kentucky, where the leadership come together and dealt with all the issues of crime and all the stuff that was going on in their community. And when they started coming together, praying together and working together and looking for solutions, the whole place got transformed. And it's on video with government, with the faith-based church and the communities. So you're welcome to come to that and listen to leaders and even watch it. I think it's around maybe 50 minutes. So you'll probably be there about an hour and a half of time. I'm going on vacation, so I won't be there to that meeting. I'd like to be, but I've been in the meetings like that before. So I don't want to take up your time. I just want to thank you again and give you the invitation for that. Bless you in Jesus' name.
Thank you. Next up, I have Dave Mueller. Welcome.
Dave Mueller, 5439 Blue Point Drive. Back in July, on the 11th, I brought up an issue about a boat that's been parked out in the bayou. Subsequent to that, my neighbors, several, 4 or 5 of them, keep asking me what's going on there. And I tell them that it's being worked. Now, the building official was kind enough to send me an email indicating what our rules are regarding mooring in the bayou, and there's a 7 consecutive day within a 30-day period ruling. The individual who owns that boat resides back on Bay Park Drive, 4918 Bay Park Drive. To date, I do not see any case in the system relative to a code violation. And I know once you do that, then they usually give you like a 7-day period to start. It might be an issue between the building department, code enforcement, and the police department. I think the citizens have a right to know and a right to have follow-up on these things. Their concern is if we have one bad apple here, the word gets out, and now you got 100 boats anchored out in the bayou. I think this is a real easy fix. You need to put a note on the guy's door, and if he doesn't respond within the appropriate period of time, then somebody needs to paint numbers on the side of that boat and consider it a salvage boat. But I'd like to see some action taken on that. I don't know where it stands. I'd like to hear some action on that. And I know that our residents would appreciate some action. Thank you.
Do we have an update on that? Do we have the before?
I don't have an update on it right now, but what I can do is I'll collaborate with both the building official and the police chief, see where we are with that, and have them respond.
Next up, Pat Rogers. Welcome.
Pat Rogers, 4838 Sunset Boulevard. Just to follow up on what Danny said about the movie that takes place in eastern Kentucky, where it was a totally poverty-stricken county. You know, everybody there was in trouble, and it shows the whole turnaround of this county and how they got back on their feet. Now, I have a problem with this new surface that was put down on our streets. At the end of Sunset, where it turns onto Fisher, there are the sweeping corner is just all crumbled up, and it was nothing was ever done with it. You know, it's the way it was. It's been for years. Also, there are 2 or 3 places, they're like dinner plate sized divots out into the road, and those were never fixed. So the road goes like this, that, you know. And I'm a little disappointed at the outcome. doesn't look, to me, it doesn't look like it's going to do what they say it's going to do.
On that Reclamite, I know that I've had a couple people reach out to. I was under the impression that we were going to patch and then lay that down, but I guess we're gonna patch after, there's some
Well,
issues.
we did several patches before the Reclamite in several different areas of the city, but we didn't get to everything.
So those be patched after.
Yeah, they'll be patched after.
That's all I had signed up. By show of hands, everybody like to speak? Sherry?
Sherry Scher, 7802 Davis Street. Just want to remind you, for the people that like to watch on YouTube, if you guys could speak up when you're talking and talking to your little spaceships, it might be a little bit easier for them to hear. Because even just now, when you were talking to Sal, I couldn't hear you here in the audience. So if you could direct your voices toward your spaceships and maybe speak up and project a little bit more, I think we would all be appreciative. Thank you.
Thanks. Anybody else? Denise, well,
Denise McKenzie, 8225 Channel Drive. First, the city charter and strategic plan, both are out of date, need revisiting. What's the timeline for getting these? Sure. The city charter and strategic plan, both are out of date, need revisiting. What's the timeline for completing? Number 2, dredging. We're a city that was built because of the river. Our waterfront is our city's biggest asset. As you know, things take a long time to get done. These discussions need to start happening now, not in 6 weeks. It's been 8 weeks since then. The sound system, to Sherry's point, if we care about reaching the community, I think we do. We need to upgrade the sound system so it's audible online and in the audience here. We're in 2023, video meetings and conferencing is very common. There's no reason that we shouldn't have better quality sound in a way for citizens to participate from their location of choice. And we should also incorporate Zoom or another platform so that citizens can participate in meetings from home. I think that chairs from each board and committee should be present at these meetings, or at least be required to watch the meetings so that they're in the know of, what has been discussed. I heard Whiskey Joe's representative at the last CRA meeting was inquiring about purchasing or leasing the property at Cody Avenue. My opinion is that we should lease the properties versus selling them. That way the city can get some revenue from the properties while we're figuring out what to do with them. And I also heard that there's an old business tracking system for the CRA, and can we do the same for council meetings and other boards and committees? Thank you.
Anyone else want to speak?
we'll move on. Next up is comments from the city manager. I'll turn it over to Mr. O'Carroll.
Thank you, Mayor. Update from Colin Bessinger and Associates on the city manager's search. I've spoken to Steve Sorrell, and he provided a brief update. I believe he updated council as well. I just wanted to put it on record that we currently have 28 solid candidates. They will be evaluating, interviewing, and vetting all the candidates, and I will continue to keep the council informed as I learn more. We have several properties that are in the process of demolition or just recently been completed. The properties are at 8526 US Highway 19. That's the Vermont Car Wash. They have a couple of structures that they've already in the process of taking down. 5214 Miller Bayou Drive, and several trailers and buildings along the north side of Limit Drive, immediately off of US 19. Coastal Engineering has reported that the traffic data has been collected for the Grand Boulevard and US 19 golf cart crossing. A draft report has been sent for staff to review. The traffic consultant wants to gather more counting information before issuing the final draft. When completed, I'll place it on the agenda for the City Council to review. The police bid packet is currently advertised and out for bid. The item will be out to bid for about 30 days. Results will be presented to the council for consideration at a later meeting. Advanced Engineering and Ayers Associates are continuing to collaborate on both projects for the Cody River Landing area. The projected timeline is still at the end of August or early September to have a combined bid packet. I remind you, council, that the city clerk will be on vacation from August 19th through the 29th. We will have a member of staff available for the August 22nd city council and CRE meetings. The Pasco County BOCC reached out to me again and is still planning on having the CRE interlocal agreement on the August 22nd agenda. Health Engineering will present the city's resiliency and vulnerability plan on the 8/22/23 city council meeting. They're going to have an open house presentation, which I'll go into in just a moment. The police department has submitted a traffic report in the city council packets for you to review. The equipment setup locations are on Old Post Road and Blue Point Drive, 7803 Grand Boulevard, 7516 Grand Boulevard, and 8235 Leo Kidd Avenue. In all areas, the percentage of the enforceable violations is deficient, but we await council for direction to move forward on that. There will be a community open house on August 22nd from 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. here at City Hall to learn about the city's vulnerability assessment and discuss protecting the community from future storm surge and storm flooding events. Pasco County has begun to convey the property on 5219 Miller Bayou Drive. The property is across from Olsner Park and will remain as an open space. Once the city attorney has reviewed the sale purchase agreement, it will be brought before City Council for review. That's all I have at this time, Mr. Mayor. Stand for everyone's questions.
Thank you. Open up to comments from the mayor and city council. I'll start with Vice Mayor Clary.
I have nothing at this time.
Ms. Vargas.
Couple things regarding the dredging. Just let you know that we have received all the stuff from 2007 on. All the city council members have received. It's a lot of paperwork from 2007. And it's not been forgotten. So, and the 6-week time frame was, Mr. Hoover had asked someone to go to the county, and I guess you've been doing that. We've been getting all that paperwork. Everything has not gone back to them. So just so you know, 6 week was a time thing, but we're still working on that. You're welcome, no problem. The water bill, someone came about the water bill. What I did was I asked for the form from our city of what we have to do, and it seems a pretty standard form. I did do some investigation. Many of our surrounding areas do ask for some sort of documentation from their residents to get an adjustment on their water bill. So it seems to be appropriate, very straightforward, one page, not real detailed. I have here if anybody would like to see it. Update us on the golf cart. So that was all I had. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Colombo.
Sorry. Sorry, I forgot to hit the thing.
Yeah, first of all, this is probably the 42nd microphone system I've seen. And they're never good. So now I'm staring at a hockey puck.
It's a spaceship.
A spaceship.
Last one was a hockey puck.
When basically the rules say I should be addressing the chair. So the chair is here, the microphone's here.
Maybe we can make this into a chair.
Well, it's a chair, not a chair, or else I'd just be talking to yours.
We have permission to address the spaceship instead of.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The other thing is, you said we received all the documentation about dredging from 2007 forward. We received all the documentation that the city could get their hands on, trust me. There was a heck of a lot of documentation from like 2007 to 2014 that's just not there. So we do not have all the documentation. Where it is, I don't know. But just making a point, you know, all those engineering reports, all that stuff we had with Taylor Engineering is this not there.
If you want to send me an email of anything specific that you're talking about.
Well, I mean, I don't know specifics. I just know that, you know, we worked on it for a very long time and there was a heck of a lot more paperwork. If you look at that, yeah, the first entry is 2007, and there's years of nothing, and there were not years of nothing in there. So, anyway, there's other material to be gathered. You might want to contact former city clerks and see if they know there's some substance in the cabinet, but we don't know where it's at. So, other than that, I don't have anything to add. Thank you.
Thanks. I'll start with, let's see. One of the things I wanted to bring up that after some thought, and I actually reached out to Sal afterwards on the mulching situation. It was one of the things I wanted to talk about outside of that, but this is probably a good time to do that. But is look at the citywide garbage situation. We have a couple vendors that service the public here, at least two, maybe more than that. And what I asked Sal to do is see what would be needed to do a contract with one. And then maybe in that contract scenario, whatever, we could include the brush pickup and maybe somebody pick up what we need to have to raise the millage rate. So that was one of the things. Did you have an update on, I know you're looking at structure-wise, what we'd have to do to.
The city clerk has provided me with just very limited documentation. She reached out to several cities for documentation, ordinances, passed on garbage collection. There is very few. Not many cities, have language to do that on their own. We can broaden the search and look for other areas in Florida. Yeah, okay, we'll take a look. But we'll continue the search and get more information.
Yeah, but so the idea there, obviously, if we maybe work out a contract with the vendor, the public would still pay the same, but we might be able to include that. A lot of the garbage services, they will pick up those brush trimmings and whatnot. But if we contract with one, there might be some savings by doing it all in the city, and we could actually.
If I may, I'm aware of a couple, actually. I just gave Sal one. They have their own garbage collection and their brush collection, but it is an additional service at an additional cost to the residents.
Right.
So it's not included within their tax.
That's correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure that.
No, the idea is we do a contract, and whether the resident would continue to pay us for that, or that we work it out that we have a contract with one and they continue to pay that individual.
The way they do it is it's a mandated single source provider for garbage collection. No one else is allowed to sit, right?
Yeah, that's what I was going to add, is that we are, as a city, allowed by state law and other cities to do it. But a lot of the residents don't like it. They like to choose their own garbage company. We do have the ability to, say, put it out for bid to all the local collectors and say, you are the sole service garbage collector for the city of Port Richey, and then somehow work whatever brush collection into it. Again, the other advantage of that is you don't have, speaking of roads, you don't have 4 different companies' trucks running, those are heavy trucks, and it's a lot of wear and tear on a road. So you have, say, on one street, if you have 3 different companies coming up, that's 3 big trucks coming up, several times, twice a week as opposed to once a week. But, generally speaking, we did look into it back, I believe, way back when I first came on council with Ellen Posback. She dug into it pretty deep. She had a lot of experience in it. But again, you'll get pushback from folks because, a lot of folks like one company, a lot of folks like the other company that's been with them for years. So.
And I'm not saying we do it, but as a possible solution.
It's certainly something to look into. I mean, I've thought about it too, and it's one thing to say, we can keep providing brush pickup. It's another thing when I'm being told we need to do what I consider a significant millage increase for one service. We need to take a hard look at that.
Yep.
I'd like to add, I'll continue to look into it if that's what council wants, but I want to add that the brush collection that we do now is not going to be the same from a garbage company. The research that I've done so far is that they'll do it in small piles, small bundles, what will fit in the can.
Oh, they do that now. I mean, my garbage company does that now. If you put it here, you get X amount of cans. If you put brush in a can, that's fine.
But they're not
and
going
if
to
you put them in bundles that are, X lengths and whatever, and a lot of people do it. I think once or twice since I've lived there, I've actually put something out for brush. I always just put it in my garbage can.
But we've all seen the piles that are out in the city.
Oh, yeah,
They will not be
people are
picking
used
up
to
those
doing it. A
piles.
lot of them piles are being filled up by landscapers that ought to be hauling this stuff away, so, we're doing their job too. Anyway, we don't need to go into depth on that, just that was my kind of.
If I may, just one more thing, then I'll stop it as well. I have seen a hybrid system where I'll say 95% of the time it's by the garbage collection in the pails, as you had indicated. And if there's a large substantial storm, hurricane, something of that nature, then the city actually circulates and does a brush pickup because there's just so much debris that it's beyond the
That's
cans.
a different issue.
Yeah.
And
And that's also FEMA reimbursement.
And that's a reimbursable
Yeah,
thing. too.
so-
Yeah, but again, even if we do it, we gotta put it someplace and we gotta do something.
Yeah, there's still a problem, I'm just
It's
saying.
still an issue.
Yeah.
Okay. On dredging, I reached out to the county. I didn't give an update last time because I was on vacation. There wasn't much to talk about. But I did reach out to the county again and talk to Justin Grant and let him know that I'm ready for meetings to be set up, and he's going to get with the folks. And so those should be forthcoming. And as soon as I have some meetings set up, I'll let the public know. But it's in the works. And we're reviewing that material that we have with them. The other thing I had, the planning and zoning next meeting still hasn't been set, at least on the calendar.
I'll defer to the city clerk.
The planning and zoning meeting was scheduled for September 7th, but that is due to a budget hearing, so I have to reschedule that meeting. So between budget hearings and council meetings, we're looking probably early October between everything going on.
Okay. And one of the things I wanted to piggyback off that for our boards and committees, especially planning and zoning, is, we have council meetings that are set. We have CSC meetings set first Thursday of the month. What I'd like to see, and I think it only makes sense, is that all our boards and committees have standing meetings set up. That way we don't have to look for a date. And if they need to cancel it, cancel it by all means. But that way they're scheduled to meet monthly at some point. And if there's work, they can take it on. And that would avoid the scheduling nightmare, because everybody be used to that coming up every month. So I don't know if it's something when we cover the board of committees.
Well, I mean, just, I'll just go to Board of Adjustment just because, I've been around for a long time and I was on Board of Adjustment. And the Board of Adjustment, if there's not an issue that needs their attention, there is absolutely no reason to have a monthly meeting. There's no point in doing it. And then planning and zoning is planning and zoning is different because we can give them different jobs. But, so as to what other boards or committees you'd be interested in including in that, I don't know. But,
Like I said, we can vary what, maybe not monthly for Board of Adjustment, maybe bi-monthly, but just to get in a cadence of the meeting, that way if something comes up, there's already
But I
something.
mean, there'd be nothing for them to do. I mean,
No, they
they
cancel it.
come up here and they would, or get canceled, I
Yeah.
suppose, if you want to just put it on the calendar, but they're going to come up here and they're just going, anybody got anything? Nothing? Okay. Motion to adjourn and walk away.
Yeah.
It's to drag them up here just to do that.
Yeah, and I'm not advocating that, just having a date. And like I said, they can reach out, hey, we have nothing. But then if they do, if something comes up, it's already on the calendar. If something comes in, we can provide them with the Board of Adjustment scheduled to meet next month at this particular time. So as stuff comes in, there's a defined thing. We're not going to say, we'll get them together and try to find a date. They actually have a date set up would be the.
Well, again, Board of Adjustment and Planning and Zoning is a bit of a fine dance that goes on between the applicants and the boards themselves. So there's a lot of moving parts there. So, trying to have a regularly scheduled date that's all going to pull together is a pretty tough thing to pull off.
Well, if I can add as well, I mean, that's going to be a lot of planning and coordination for something that's just going to be canceled every month as well.
Yeah.
If we don't have a particular topic to talk about, you're asking these citizens who don't receive any funds whatsoever to set aside a date that can be canceled every month, and then you're going to have staff who have to attend these meetings as well, and the city attorney is going to have to attend those meetings. So why would we schedule meetings when there's nothing to put on the agenda?
Like I said, the only thing I'm advocating for is that we have a date and time set up. And like I said, maybe Board of Adjustment is an exception to the rule. Planning and zoning absolutely needs to be a monthly meeting set up now for sure, because they're going through these codes, and obviously it's going to be October now. It's getting pushed out too. So anyway, we can discuss that later, but I think there's improvement there of what we can do as far as actually getting dates on the calendar. The last thing I had on the town hall meeting, I know you guys were looking at a date for that, and have we come up with a date for the town hall meeting? I know we're trying to schedule that before the budget hearing, which is.
We're still in the process of doing that between coordinated dates.
Okay, so that should be forthcoming. And obviously, I think the goal was to have that in August. Is that still?
We discussed last council meeting that it probably
Won't be in August now. So, okay. The budget hearing, first public budget hearing is 9/7 and 9/21. I know we want to kind of coordinate around that, so.
That's all I have.
Next up, I have comments from boards and committees. Is there any? Yep, Pat Rogers, welcome.
As the chair of the Board of Adjustments, we historically have met on Wednesdays. It depends on when it's coming in, as whether it's first, second, third, or fourth Wednesday, but it's normally a Wednesday whenever we do meet. So far, it's been once a year just to welcome new people.
I was unable to attend the CAC due to a family obligation, but I asked Lisa to present the mulching to them. Oh, sorry, thank you. To present the mulching poll as asked. And the girl who usually does the poll was not present at the meeting, so Lisa, who was functioning as the chair that night, was going to get with the girl who usually does the poll. I wasn't able to get in touch with Lisa. I contacted her, but I wasn't able to touch base with her, so we will continue to work on that.
Okay, moving on, consent agenda. Looking for a motion.
Motion for consent agenda?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Anybody from public like to speak on that? Seeing no hands, put the vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next up is council business. Item number 3, appointment of members to boards and committees. I'll turn it over to Mr. Carey for introduction.
Thank you, Mayor. For council consideration is the appointment of 2 alternate members, Joe Malin and Denise McKenzie, to the Planning and Zoning Board.
With the motion or discussion.
Motion to approve Denise McKenzie and Joe Malin to the Planning and Zoning Board.
Second. Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Anyone from public like to speak?
Any comments or anything from planning and zoning? No, the chair.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, I am Sean Poole. I am the chairman of Zoning and Planning. I've been on the board now officially 20 years this year. So we have asked multiple times to meet on a regular basis. The suggestion before was quarterly, because as Mr. Columbus said, there are times we don't have anything to discuss. Right now, we have lots to discuss because we have lots to review. So I would welcome a monthly meeting if that's what my members would like to do. Absolutely. I welcome Mr. Joe and also Ms. McKenzie. If we'd like to see some fresh blood, and I'd like to see some city residents actually attend our meetings so they can hear what we have to say, and we welcome their input as well. So if you have any questions for me, I'd love to answer them. I've been through this quite a few times.
And thank you, Sean. I know you've been up there for a very, very long time, and I appreciate your service.
I just like the fact we seem like we're finally moving in the right direction. So,
I actually have a question.
sure.
You had asked, maybe I misinterpreted, you asked for a monthly meeting?
We had asked in the past for, prior to COVID, probably about 2 years before COVID, that we meet at least quarterly so we could discuss, especially with the attorney and with the building officials, where we were in the process, what was coming up, anything, any kind of pertinent things to be discussed. So, and at the time, there just wasn't.
Mandate from the council, or you want?
No, we had requested it.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah. No, there was no mandate. No, absolutely not. No, no. No, it had been requested that we put that on the schedule, but there are other things to consider, staffing and everything else, so we understand. All right. Thanks, guys.
Anyone else like to speak? Seeing no hands up, let's vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next up is approval of impact fee purchase piping supplies for the Keys and Cody River for meter installation. I'll turn it over to Mr. Carey for introduction.
Thank you, Mayor. When it comes to impact fees, any purchase, no matter the dollar amount, has to be approved by council. So the requested impact fee purchase for the gate valves and fittings would be for the installation of a 6-inch water meter at the Keys of Cody River. The purchase is under term of $2,500 per the city code, but once again, of course, it's an impact fee purchase. Look into a motion to approve the water impact fee purchase of $2,179.40 for the meter installed parts of the Keys of Cody River subdivision meter install.
Motion approved.
Second.
Have a motion second. Further discussion? Anybody from public like to speak on this? Seeing no hands, put it to vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, number 5, surplus of impounded vehicles. Turn it over to Mr. LaCarry for introduction.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The request is for the surplus of 12 impounded vehicles that have been stored in the impound lot of the police department for 90 days or more. The registered owners were sent notifications via registered mail and have not responded to retrieve their vehicles. The Port Richey Police Department will send these vehicles to the Tampa Bay machinery auction as our standard practice. Looking for a motion to approve the surplus of the impounded vehicles at the police department.
Motion approved, surplus of vehicles.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Further discussion?
I would have loved to have seen a picture of the homemade trailer.
Is it your house, chief?
For that.
Okay, if I from public, I can speak?
That's still Tampa machinery and auction.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Seeing no hands, I'll put it to vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, number 6, first reading of ordinance 23-690, adopting fire safety codes and providing for a fire safety inspector. I'll turn it over to Mrs. Meyer.
Yes, thank you. I will read the ordinance by title. Ordinance number 23-690, an ordinance of the City of Port Richey, Florida, amending Chapter 1 of the City of Port Richey Code of Ordinances to add Article 3, adopting the Florida Fire Prevention Code, National Fire Protection Association, NFPA 101, Life Safety Code, and the Florida Building Code, providing for a fire safety inspector, providing for codification, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. If you remember, we had a conversation a little while back about having this ordinance in place. It's adopting what the department already utilizes. They do already use these standards, but it officially puts it in the city's code that they are using them, and that they do have a fire safety inspector that will allow, should the council choose to, at a later date, pass a resolution to allow them to obtain inspection fees that the fire safety inspector is doing. So this is the first step in that process.
My only question on this would be, I guess to you, since it's pretty much your bailiwick. I didn't read the details of the ordinance, but are we basically adopting whatever the current code is in any given year?
I can answer that one for you.
Okay.
As it's written, it says as now and subsequently amended.
Okay.
So you will not have to come back and do this every time they amend one.
Well, I mean, sometimes, I see the wisdom to that. Other times, there might be a change that's pretty substantial that the fire chief would like a little time to wrap his head around before all of a sudden he has to comply with it. But, obviously, the most logical thing is just to adopt the most current regulations, unless there's one in there that you really, really don't like, and then you can always go back and adopt a previous one.
I guess we can have that conversation should we need to.
Yeah, I know just from like shooting fireworks and stuff, they put out 1, 1, 2, 3 like every single year, and certain cities had adopted 1, 1, 2, 3 from calendar year 1984 and never changed it. So you go around the different cities, shoot fireworks, you have to look up the right copy of 1, 1, 2, 3 to figure out which one applies.
Motion to approve the first reading of ordinance number 23-690.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Anyone from the public like to speak? Seeing no hands, I'll put it to vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, number 7, benefits insurance renewal rates. I'll turn it over to Mr. LaCarry for introduction.
Thank you. As requested by the City Council, staff researched alternate vendors for the city to purchase health, dental, and vision insurance. Currently, the city uses PRM, the Public Risk Management, which is a large pool with other municipalities, helping to spread risk while providing greater purchasing power and more stable renewals. Staff discussed and negotiated with PRM for a renewal rate of 2024, and they were able to offer an 8% increase to health insurance with no addition for dental and vision. We have also approached the Florida Municipal Insurance Trust, which is a very similar municipality pool. They provided the city with a 9.7 increase in similar health insurance, but a 46% increase in dental rates and a 40% increase in vision and healthcare. With FMIT, the insurance renewals are currently on paper. We would have to pretty much restart the wheel on that with the staff and from the ground up renew everyone. Lassitware is an insurance broker that also provided renewal rates for the city and provide the same Florida Blue plans as PRM for an 8% increase, and no increase in dental and vision rates. But we would have to switch to Mutual of Omaha for those coverages. Because they're insurance broker, the city would not be in a pool with other municipalities to help offset any risks. The staff recommendation is to remain with PRM since the percentage increase would be the same. There are more benefits, of course, to staying with an employee-insured pool than being with a single entity. One of the most significant advantages is if the city has a high percentage of claims for the year through the entire employee base, the maximum increase to the city is 6% of the base minimum from PRM, which is currently right now rated at 4% to 5%. So the most you'll ever get is like 11.5 to 12% increase. We won't be able to promise that we're going with an insurance broker. And then plus the fact that with my history of the city in the past, when we had an independent broker, we were switching plans every year just for the city to accommodate, which was very difficult on staff, switching doctors, switching coverages, things like that. United may provide something and Florida Blue don't. I just wanted to bring this up to council. There's really no decision to be made. Just one of the other research was asked to be done, and we did that. I want to give accommodations to our finance director. Rachel did a great deal of research and worked with me on this project. So we just wanted to provide this information to council, and this is my recommendation to stay with PRM.
I agree with your recommendation. I appreciate you doing this. I do think it is something that we actually should vote on.
Okay.
It's a purchase.
Well, yeah, I mean, we can, if you want to make a motion of.
I make a motion to stick with PRM.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion?
I agree. There seems to be a larger, increased risk and no reward, so.
There you go.
I concur as well. Anybody from the public like to speak? Seeing no hands, I'll put it to vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, number 8, fiscal year 2024 budget discussion. I'll turn it over to Mr. LaCare for introduction.
Well, I just wanted to announce that this was, that was the last of our easy. So now we can really get into it. Yes, I'll defer to our finance director for presentation.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me? Hear me? Okay. So this is City of Port Richey's proposed operating budget for fiscal year starting in October 1st of 2023 to September 30th of 2024. Do I want to make that bigger? No? So I just wanted to go over the types of governmental funds that the city has. So we have a general fund. It's the primary operating fund for the city, and it supports mostly our departmental operations for our financial resources, except those required by law or administrative action to be accounted for in another fund. Then we have special revenue funds. These account for the proceeds of specific revenue sources and are legally restricted to be expended for specific purposes. And then, so types of special revenue funds, we have a police confiscation fund, and that's from auctioning impound vehicles. We have a training fund, and we receive money from this from the county. It's per state statute. We have a $5 red light fund for the police, and this is from $5 of every red light ticket goes into that fund, and it's for the police officers to use for, if we need to purchase software and things like that. We have a Nix Park on our books right now, and then we have a CRA fund. Capital improvement funds, we have impact fees, and these are used to support additional infrastructure, to support a new development, and for Penny for Pasco. And that is specifically for fixed capital expenditures that have a life expectancy of 5 or more years, and they have to be approved by council. And then for other governmental funds, we have proprietary funds. These are enterprise funds. We have a water and sewer fund and a stormwater fund. So these are obtaining their revenue primarily from user charges, and they're supposed to be self-supporting. And so as it stands today, these are our fund balance for each of those different funds. We have FY22 audited fund balance I estimated the carry forward from this current year. And then we have our FY24 beginning fund balance from those two. And then, so our policy for the general fund is 30% to hold as fund balance, and we currently have 36%. So we're in a good position there. And then we also have 30% in the utilities fund. And with the new stormwater rates, we're working on increasing that reserve.
Zero isn't good?
It's not very good, no, but we're working on it. And then these are our impact fee balances for each of our impact fee funds. We have about $2 million, and we are working on spending that down.
What's in transportation impact?
Yeah, so that's money that we receive from developments, and that's supposed to be used for roads and infrastructure. Yep. Yep. Okay, and then general fund revenues. So we received about an 8.67% in taxable value for the city. So the increase is about $194,000 to our tax revenue. Other taxes is mostly from state revenues. That went up about $81,000, and I'm still waiting on two other sources of state revenue to get their estimates in. License and permits went up just a little bit. The intergovernmental is mostly grants, so we have that new Safe Streets grant for $200,000, so that's in there. That's why that was a large increase. Charges for services went up because that's from the fire inspections fee that we're intending to get. Fines and forfeitures went down just slightly. Miscellaneous went up about $100,000, and that was mostly due to interest. We're receiving a more favorable interest rate overall for all the funds. And then our cost allocations went up slightly. And then from reserves, it's for the, we carried forward that city manager search portion, and then the man lift. We're still purchasing a man lift, and we haven't received it yet, so we can't pay it out. So we're carrying that forward. And these are our summaries of revenues by fund. Overall was about a $2 million increase over prior year. And that was mostly because our charges for services in the utilities fund and the stormwaters fund went up because we raised rates. Our taxes went up due to that increase in property value. And then grants. So we have that $200,000 grant. We have a large generator grant for utility fund. Okay. And then overall budget increases for all the funds. So there is a 3% wage increase for all employees. FRS rates did increase per state statute for police, fire, the city manager rate, and then all other employees. And then the health insurance increase from PRM went up 8%. Okay. Next, please. Oh, go back one. Okay.
Question on that, the 3% wage increase for employees, that's not tied to the pending study we got coming back. right?
Correct, that's contractual. And then, so like I said, we have that Safe Streets grant for $200,000. So there's a $40,000 match that we approved this year for that. That's to create a safety action plan for the city. We're looking at increasing our IT cloud services. It's a $40,000 increase, and we will go out to bid for that. We're looking at an impact fee study. Fees have not been updated since 1999, and the study done in 2009 was not implemented, so it's about a $38,000 cost to have those studied. And then changing law firms, obviously, we increase costs there about $50,000.
Just to circle back, we had a study done in 2009, but never implemented any of the recommendations.
Now, we found the actual study that was done, but no resolution or ordinance that decided to spend the money.
Okay, and then, so this is our general fund budget and broken out by department. So as you can see, legal increased $50,000, IT increased due to the cloud service purchase, general government increased due to property insurance. And then You'll see fire increased, it looks a lot, but it used to be separated out into building as well, so now we combined it all into fire. Because they do some inspection services, so we were trying to separate that out into the building portion, but we're not allowed to do that per state statute, so we need to move that back into fire. And then building went down because we had $100,000 allocated for impact fee study last year. And so we moved that over to general government to kind of take it out of the building fund.
Sorry, you said you moved the impact fees to the general fund?
To the general department, 19, instead of putting it in the building department. Really, building should be its own enterprise fund, like its own self-sustaining fund, because we raise permit fees, revenues, and that should offset the costs of the building department. So we kind of want to remove any other additional expenses out of there to account just for building.
So you're isolating the building to itself?
Correct.
Whatever he spends is what he makes, or whatever he
Right.
makes is what he spends?
Yep.
Okay.
hmm It should be self-supporting. Yeah. Yep. Okay, code enforcement, it's a little bit of a drop because the percent allocation, we did move some allocations for, where is it, 25. He was originally 80% general fund, 20% CRA, and we moved him 70% general fund, 30% CRA, because he does a lot of work regarding blight. And then the same thing, we looked at building department. We moved development services specialist, 65% to the general fund now. We only increased it 5% in the CRA. Same thing with the revenue manager, we increased that 5% in the CRA. And then the building inspector was originally 80-20, and we put 60% in the general fund and 40% in the CRA fund. And that is after the audit. So we spoke to each of these employees and their positions and asked them what they do in relation to the Community Redevelopment Fund. And they had to actually track their activities and provide an estimate of the percent of time that they spent on activities related to CRA. So that's where we came up with those estimates, and they actually had to sign off on them. The supervisor had to sign off on them. Operations manager signed off on them. So it is now audit-proof. So.
That was going to be my question, because that was one of the things that was brought up in the audit. So we're
Yes.
100% confident it's bulletproof.
Correct, yes. We've actually had the CRA auditors look at them, so.
And that's
Yep.
the way it says it all along.
Correct, yes. Yes. So now it is correct. Let's see. And then the CRA value increased about 6%, so you'll see a little bit of an increase there in the CRA transfer. And then those carry forward purchases I talked about earlier, and contingency only decreased about $9,000.
The CRA transfer, that's taking into account the recent reduction that we just considered?
Yes, of EBTIDE. Yep. Okay. Okay, so then we have a balanced general fund. These are the expenses. And overall, the general fund went up about 6.89%. Okay. And I actually want to go to the next one after this first. Thank you. Okay, so the utility fund. So we did add a full-time utilities crewman dedicated to work orders, and that was the cost for that. We added lift station improvements for $90,000. We added $20,000 for water treatment plant improvements, $7,000 for a trench safety box, and $7,500 for an electric gate motor. Okay, and then you can go back. So these are the departmental expenditures for the utility fund. Let's see, administration went down a little bit. We did reduce the operations manager. He was originally 75% to utility fund. We reduced him to 55% in the utility fund, so that's why that went down. Legal increased slightly. Yeah. And then the cost of chemicals actually went up a lot. So water treatment went up quite a bit. And then water distribution is where that additional crewman is. Wastewater also increased due to salaries. I mean, we now have a couple of CDL licensed drivers where we didn't previously. And then debt service went down a little bit. We will be paying that off in 2035. Okay. So this is the general fund millage calculation. So our gross taxable value went up 8.67% overall for the city. And then the CRA taxable value, it was 8%, and then EBTIDE reduced it to about 5.9%. So it saved us about $37,000. So we'll be sending over about $653,000 to the CRA. And then our appropriations increased slightly. Let's see, our revenues increased, and most of that was due to that $200,000 grant. And then ad valorem increased, and we kept our millage rate at 6.35.
And this is exclusive of the discussion about picking up.
Then 2 next slides.
I'm always ruin the story.
You could tell what was coming. So we are requesting an additional code enforcement officer. The city has seen substantial growth, about 14.7%. The cases have also been increasing. You'll see 2020 was 353, and then 2022 it jumped up to 383. We have multiple housing projects anticipated, 1,400 residential units and 1 commercial project. And then the costs on the general fund, we split it out 70% there and then 30% to the CRA fund because that position does deal with a lot of blight. So the impact on the millage rate would be 0.14 if we were to add an additional code enforcement officer.
When are the 1,400 units expected to come online?
I defer to building official. Do we have a projected timeline for that?
Not yet. They're still, the one on Limit Drive is still in the preliminaries. I think the first one to come along would probably be within the next 180 days. It's probably going to be the Vacar Bay, Bay Boulevard.
Breaking ground or just?
I'd say they're still, I mean, pretty much most of the stuff was already done from the previous owner. So the traffic study was already done, all the environmentals was already done. They've got pretty much all of the drawings pretty much done. So I'd say probably 180 days. They probably could break ground and then.
So breaking ground in 180 days, 8-month construction aggressively, 14 months out to first residence.
I'd say.
Okay, and then the next slide is regarding the mulching the city brush pile again. And we estimated the impact on the millage rate is 0.22. And then after that, we just have our scheduled budget public hearing schedule. It's Thursday, September 7th at 5:30, and then Thursday, September 21st at 5:30. And that's that. Do you have any additional questions?
Any discussion? I think it was a great job so far. Thanks, Rachel.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Very good, thank you.
Any comment from the public on that? No.
So just to remind council, as we move on, if there's something to discuss now, as we move forward, basically, we have a balanced budget with the current millage rate, except for 2 asks, the additional code enforcement officer and the mulching of the brush pile. Those are the 2 items to basically, to consider moving forward. As far as the brush pile, I've already explained, the city's necessity. It's a service that we've had for 40 plus years. I know it's a very hot topic. It's been a very hot topic online. I'm sure you've all received calls yourselves about that. And I await council's decision to move forward on that. Code enforcement, it's not only also about the future development, but, there's issues like, especially Councilman Colombo brought up, about landscapers, cutting piles, things like that. We don't have any weekend coverage right now. this code enforcer would provide that coverage. This would, the schedule coming through the door would cover those, cover the Saturday and Sunday, start on Wednesday and work through the weekend. That's one of our main reasons to ask for this position. There's a lot of items that our current code enforcer isn't able to do because of the active cases that he now holds. They're also here tonight for any questions that you may have.
How many active cases are there now? Do you know?
If I can defer.
How many active cases, honey?
So there was 202 active as of now, but he's.
Come up here. Veronica, sorry.
He had 202 cases to date since October, okay? Active, he has 112, and he's been able to close out the rest. That doesn't count the ones that are going to citations. Those are still ongoing that we're dealing with. Also, keep in mind that every case that's out there, if it has to go to citation, it's about a 3-4 month process per case. The workload that he has on him currently makes him, it's like having one police officer run your city for 8 hours. That's what we're looking at. It's one person who has to do all of it and then still get out there and find more. So with that being said, he has defaulted on some things with code enforcement that he hasn't been able to do, such as commercial. So I know commercial at one point was a big topic on 19 where we can try to clean up our corridors, and we haven't been able to do that. Residential maintenance is another one that we haven't been able to really get into because he has so many cases pending and he has so many open. So a second code enforcement officer will help relieve that. It would be a Wednesday, like Sal had said before. It would be a Wednesday to a Sunday shift. So this way there's somebody here every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, so we can catch what's happening on the weekends. We get a lot of complaints that are coming through that are from the weekend that no one is here to see. So I think that would alleviate a lot of the issues and a lot of the problems that we're having on the weekend. But it's something that the city is needing. In all my years here, we have run with one code enforcement officer, but it's always been a struggle. It's always been a struggle because it's difficult to keep up with one person doing everything. It's very difficult.
Other cities our size, what's the typical code enforcement? 1, 2?
1 to 2. So City of Brooksville is a small municipality such as us, but they're a little bit larger square miles, and they have 2 officers. We can't really compare it to Newport Richey because Newport Richey is 4 times our size. City of Tarpon has 3 to 4. So it's difficult, but you don't typically just see one code enforcement officer. At least there's 2. You've got vacations, you've got if somebody's out sick, or if we went through that at one time where they were out for 4 or 5 months. So there's times in between that it covers. So I think the second officer, especially working the weekends, is gonna be the biggest impact.
In terms of, how many cases do you think we're missing? So right now we have 383, I believe is the thing. Do you think there's enough work for 500 cases, 400 cases?
So keep in mind, some of the things in our code we haven't been able. So all of your commercial, your signage, your the buildings, all of the commercial, none of it has been able to be addressed.
So we haven't even gone to.
We have not even touched commercial. He just hasn't had the time. He's.
So we're looking down 19 corridor.
We do. They do drive it, but they haven't been able, he hasn't been able to get to commercial at all. And every week we ask, hey, his workload is just too much. And it's difficult. He doesn't have anybody inputting information. He doesn't have anybody taking pictures. He doesn't have anybody going to court. He doesn't have anybody investigating the situation. He doesn't have anybody calling the resident, or, you know, he doesn't have. He also deals with Public Works. He helps them with the illicit discharge. He also helps the business tax receipt girls. He also helps them with the businesses. So he incorporates quite a bit in, he deals with the abandoned properties. It's one person doing this. So he doesn't just do code violations, he's also doing other things within the office.
The biggest complaint I've always heard is code problems. This one's got a trailer, this one's got a boat, this one's grass is too high, that's always been, I mean, sitting in COC for 5 or 6 years, that's a lot of the complaints that people are hearing from other residents. The boat in the bayou, I mean, there are just things that are happening. When I spoke to Mike last meeting, my question was, do we do hang tags? And the answer is no, we don't have time for that. We go straight to certified letter, correct? Which is a cost. Speaking from my own personal experience, a hang tag, I go, whoa, I got one.
So,
And therefore, I fixed the problem, or I at least called and spoke to somebody and fixed it when I was able to. You guys worked with me, and this was years ago, way before I was on council. So, but we don't have the manpower to do that right now. And I think sometimes with an additional person, maybe we could cut down the cost of certified mail. I work, a lot of people work, they don't have time to sign for their certified mail. I think we can fix some of these issues with a second person that would be able to follow through with that. I think one person is a one-man show, and I can understand how difficult that is. I know we're small, I understand we only have 3,000 residents, but nobody has addressed these issues for a very, very, very long time, in my opinion. And that's been the biggest complaint of residents throughout the city that I've heard. So,
okay, I'm not gonna say a word. I just wanted to explain the hang tag, because that's come up quite often. And I think, I don't want to talk myself out of this. No, I just wanted to explain the hang tag, you know, with the cards on the hang. So we used to do that, okay? And what we saw was we had 100 hang tags out there, and they blow off. It's a renter, they throw it in the trash. Nobody complies. So someone such as yourself calls us, because back in that time, you would call us, let us know of the violation. So now we've given that person 3 days, 5 days to fix it with the courtesy door hanger, okay? They didn't comply. So now you've called me and told me, hey, Veronica, there's an issue over here, there's a violation here, right? And I tell you, I put a door hanger there for 5 days, okay? Then it doesn't get corrected. Now I have to certify mail him a letter. Well, now I have to certify mail him and give him 7 days. So now we're up to 12 days. Then we have to wait for him to receive that letter.
the first 5 days at the beginning of the process. The rest of the process remains the same.
Correct.
Getting the 5 days, and you might be saving a couple bucks, and you might not be tipping off a lot of residents by getting a certified mail.
Well, and we have discussed that. We have talked about that because we have listened to what council wants and what residents want. We have that. It just makes it that much more longer for him to stop the truck, get out of the truck, tape it, get back in the truck, and hope that they receive it. And by state statute, he asked, is there something else that can be done instead of certified mail? I was, yeah. So it goes by Florida statute, and Florida statute dictates what we have to do. So unfortunately, the door hanger works if people receive it and comply. It makes it difficult for us to track it, because then the next question is, how do you know I received it? I don't know. So now the certified mail, now we know that you've received it, and now we can address the issue. So it's a process. And we say this a lot in our office and we laugh about it because everything we do is a process. People want things tomorrow or today, and unfortunately, it just doesn't work like that. There is a process. So certified mail means that you've received a letter and now I can hold you accountable. So when we go to court, if you decide to not comply and it goes to citation, Nancy isn't asking us, where's the documentation that you served them with? Because we have had that happen. We have had that happen where we've done the door hangers and and have talked to a resident, you didn't talk to me, prove you talked to me.
Well, and then that's fine, just go to certified letter at that point. If it takes 5 days or whatever, and then they go to certified at the end of the certified.
Right.
Together or not, so.
Right.
My question, ideally, I would think that the hang tag scenario, in a perfect world, we did the hang tags and everybody complied, or even half. Don't they, doesn't that reduce the workload? I mean,
Absolutely, absolutely. The only way, though, for us to keep it on a normal keel is to do it all the same way. We're either going to do everybody hang tags or we're going to do everybody notice of violation. So the notice of violation is the same thing. The only thing is that it's certified. So the cost, the time to do that, yes, I understand. But it's the only way for us to track it. It's the only way for us to keep it, because if it's your complaint at your home, Mr. Mayor, and I only put a door hanger, and you're wanting to see the documentation that you received that, I have nothing. And we're starting all of we're starting, I gave you 3 days initially, or 5 days initially, and now I have to go to notice of violation. Now we've pushed it back another 7 days, and then wait for the mail for you to receive it.
so I have a question on, this is probably a question. So, we come by the mayor's house and he's doing some he usually is. And the door hanger goes on. We open a case in the system as of January 1st. We can't carry that date forward in the actual notification period, so.
No.
The door hanger is separate from the actual legal case. Per statute for the.
So none of that time frame can count.
No, the door hanger would be a courtesy, kind of like the same we talked before, like couldn't you just walk up and knock and say, hey, mow your lawn? It's a courtesy, letting you know, putting you on notice.
Yeah, so the clock doesn't start ticking until they get an official letter.
The way per Florida statute, they have to, a certified mail notice of violation has to go first. That's the first step. That's when the clock starts for the litigation side of it.
How many man hours, woman hours, person hours does it take to prosecute a case? So let's say I get a door hanger or I get a
Notice of violation.
and I say, I don't care. How much time does it take the code enforcement official to bring it to Nancy to get it to a court? Or
We generally give them 14 days.
not
Okay.
that timeframe. How many of your hours would it take typically? I mean, again, ballpark. I'm not looking 40 hours, 20 hours, 10 hours.
Individual case, per case?
Per case, yes.
Anywhere from 5 to 8 jobs.
Conference people.
It's going to depend on how many charges. If there's 4 charges, let's, for an example, each charge is a citation. If it's just 1, then it's a lot easier. If I have 4, I have to do that on 4. It's a lot of paperwork. Put it that way, it's a lot of paperwork, so it's hard to answer that question.
So like, let's say there's 1 charge. Does it take 5 hours of your time theoretically to put together a case for Nancy?
With pictures and everything else, I would say.
If I may jump in, it also depends on the kind of case it is, his interaction with the individual. Sometimes they do call and
Yeah.
interaction, but then ultimately we still end up in citation. If after the certified letter goes, with a notice of violation, if there's not compliance, then a citation gets issued. He has to post pictures for court dates. There's a lot he has to do.
So let's say hypothetically 10 hours. Is that a fair?
It's pretty fair.
I'm just trying to get a ballpark.
Yeah, I would say it's ballpark.
How many cases do we have that goes to Nancy?
We only have that 3 days.
Quite a few.
He's very busy.
I,
Right now, our last, you may have the actual numbers on it. I think since I've been here, we've had at least 20.
I'd say 20 to 30.
And actually been to court so far, maybe 20.
And there's,
20 times 10 hours, so basically 200 hours of your time, 10% of your time
Yeah,
now has been in court.
yeah. And there's a pile on my desk, if that makes you feel any better.
Is that revenue generating or?
May not be.
Well, that was going to be my next question.
There's fines associated. We're early on in my time here, so we haven't gotten too far with those actually going to trial or getting the fines, but there are fines associated with it. And I know when I first started, I think Mr. Duke talked to somebody and asked some question, because we're with county court. We're with the Pasco County, well, 6th Judicial Circuit in the Pasco County Courthouse. So they collect and we get a percentage and they keep part of it because they're doing the processing. Where if we had a special magistrate system, which is a conversation for a completely different day, more of those funds would come directly to the city, which you have to pay for the special magistrate's time. So short answer, yes. I can't give you an amount.
We used to do the special magistrate route, and that didn't work out.
It didn't work for you guys?
Yeah, well,
And they
it's
say
just,
do it.
you don't have the enforcement authority of the courthouse.
Well-
You do, but you don't. I mean,
I would-
it's kind of.
It would depend. We'll have that conversation. And we can talk about it now if you want, but I don't want to take us down
No,
a path we don't want to
we
go
don't
on
need
right
to go
now.
down that road
Yeah.
now.
I can't give you a number, like how much revenue how much the fines bring in. I mean, the fines are deterrent. They're not meant to obviously self-fund, I don't believe. Maybe Rachel would disagree with me, but they're not huge. They're not a lot, you
I've
know.
seen $200, $500.
They're-
Well, a lot of them are escalating scale and repeat violations. You know, first violation is second, third, fourth.
So they're not a lot. They're not a lot.
I think the 2024 budget actually went down in cost, didn't it? As far as,
Yes, because like I said, it was originally 80% to the general fund, and we moved 10% over to CR. Yep.
do you, and I know it hadn't been done in a while, the hang tags, if you had to guess, of what percentage were effective? Half? 25%? I mean, it's a very low percentage.
Very low, very low. But that's why we stopped. That's why we stopped.
Tags are most likely to be.
It's a courtesy, I think. It's just
Well,
more of a
you throw in the
courtesy.
very simplest things like mow your lawn, you know, that sort of.
Yeah, and that's what we discussed. You know, the garbage can is sitting out at the front of the road. We don't want to do a notice of violation. We can put a door hanger on that. Your grass is a little too long. Please cut you're in violation of this section, please. You know, we have discussed that. But the only way to track this is putting it in through notice of violation by Florida statute. So that's why we haven't, but they were not effective in the past.
This 0.14, 60,000 some odd dollars in cost seems to be largely salary. I know there's a vehicle include, typically he's going to be driving, or he or she would be driving around, or.
It's just salary, FRS, health insurance, like
So-
Medi payroll taxes.
So what is the plan for a vehicle, and or are they the unlucky person to walk the city and he gets the car? Or do we give them a golf cart and hopefully cross 19?
Well, vehicles is something that we are going to discuss. That is something that they're going to need, obviously. On the weekends, it's something that they can share because he doesn't take that truck home. So that is something that's available at least 2 out of the 5 days or 4 days. Well, we also have another vehicle, which is the little Fit, that we're gonna be looking to, bringing it before council to upgrade, and get rid of that. That's another opportunity for us to, yeah, it's horrible. No, it's a Honda Fit. It's a Honda Fit. It's a little matchbox car. Yeah, it's really small. There's nothing smart about it. 2012, I believe. Yeah. Yeah.
Down that parking lot, they've been ignored by staff all the time.
Right.
Not my cost is not my car. It's getting me.
So that's going to be, I think, on a different subject, but yes, we have thought about that, and that is something, I think, for a different day.
My concern is if council says, oh yeah, all right, 0.14, great idea, blah, 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 and then 2 months later say, oh yeah, we need another, what, $30,000 for.
Well,
we also have different.
On 2 days, they're both using the same vehicle, on the other days, you pay money.
There are times, so code enforcement is not always in the field for 7.5, 8 hours a day. He does get a half-hour lunch where he does eat. Yeah, we do that. But for the most part, you do see Jeff out in the field. But there is times where he will come into the field to input his information if he doesn't do it from the truck. And so, but that is something that we are going to talk about.
I mean, we have any capital funds that can be utilized for that, yes.
I'm trying to get that off the budget.
And obviously, it's a full-time equivalent. Do we look at part-time? We used to have part-time one, I think.
Not as long as I've been here, we haven't had part-time. No, so we had a police officer. Oh, yeah.
That's another thing. There is, as of right now, there is no replacement. There's, if Jeffrey was to, leave us tomorrow, we start right from the ground up all over again.
And I believe that there was a time where we went several months without.
Yes, that's correct. And I was driving around. Yeah. I was code enforcement. Well, I was here when someone went out sick for 4 months, and I had to cover it. And then the same thing. You know, there was a period of time where we had no code enforcement, so it was me with my pad and pen driving up and down every single street, trying to take care of it. So, yeah, so I have seen the good and the bad. It used to be police officer, used to do it at one point. Half the week he was a police officer, half the week he was code enforcement. And that didn't work. So, yeah. We did do.
That's your job.
Do you have a need for additional full-time resource that could be shared that offsets some of this cost? Or you just said no right off at least think about it. As soon as she said it.
He's a fast thinker.
What we found was it became very difficult for law enforcement to switch that hat to code. Exactly, they have different guidelines that they have to follow. So it just didn't work. But
He was more direct.
I was trying to say no in a nice way. Okay, I'm done?
I did have one more question on that. If we were to, well, two things actually. One, possibly citizens could go in now online and submit code cases.
Mhm.
I'm assuming that's probably added to the work because of, everybody's out there putting in faces themselves or whatever, or is that reducing the work? Is that?
No, they would act, the code enforcement would have to then go.
Because that's effectuated, I guess, by doing so. It's actually increasing the workload by doing that.
Yes.
The other thing is, would it be possible, I know we've talked about the hang tags. Like I said, I find it shocking. I mean, if I get a hang tag on my door, I'm going to call and say something. I mean,
You would think.
yeah, well, and I think people watching.
You would think.
So obviously people know that it's going to cost them on their taxes for us to do it. Maybe they'd be more prudent to look at that. But I guess my question is, if we did that again, starting with that, everybody gets, not just to mow the grass, but everything, and track. Because honestly, if that works, right?
It hasn't worked. It's not that the building doesn't want to do that. It's not that code doesn't want to do that. I'm going to be very honest with you. It's the compliance factor that came from. A lot of it was more of, I never received it. So it's almost a moot point for me to stop, knock on the door, or even just tag it. Because when you put it on your door, you're going to knock. You're going to want to talk to someone. But we weren't getting that. Everyone's at work at that time. So we weren't getting that.
I think if we are to go back to hang tags, we should go under the presumption that it will not, if the person's going to do it, they're not going to respond to it. It's more of a courtesy and a nice feel good. Yes, we're trying to build neighborhood. They're trying to build neighborhood relations on the thing. We're not going to get a response.
Can we talk about the hang tags at another time when we?
Yes.
I mean, just because we're kind of voting, trying to discuss if we want to do it at the person or not. I'm for hang tags, but I think we should put it off.
Do we have the fees and stuff? This is another question I have. Are we are we limited on those fees based on statute, or can we pretty much charge whatever? Can we make up the difference in fees for people that don't
There
qualify?
is a administrative order from the chief judge for the Sixth Circuit that is out there. That is what the city has adopted. Most cities have. I have not looked past whether we have an option to do something different. My instinct would be no, we probably don't, but I can check on that to make sure.
Let's see what fees.
I believe we're mandated to go by what the administrative order says, but I can be happy to check it.
What does the .14 millage equate to in dollars again? Please remind me.
A mill is $1 in every $1,000 taxable.
So what does .14 equate to in dollars?
A little less.
$1.40 per thousand, so
What?
$1.40 per thousand, is that right?
That would be 40 cents.
14 cents. 14 cents per
Point
thousand.
I'm sorry.
.14.
It's $14 on a $100,000 property.
$14 on 100,000. Okay.
So
So
on the average house, it's times 4, it's $56 a year.
Right.
On the average house.
to get another code enforcement, which is the biggest complaint I hear from people is code enforcement. Is not them. I'm looking at a trailer, I'm looking at a boat, I'm looking at high grass, I'm looking at this, that, or the other thing. That's the biggest complaint I hear from people. I still think we still need another code enforcement person. I think it's worth the money. If I had to choose between this and mulch, I want a code enforcement person.
I think from a city perspective, if we want the city to grow, the city is growing, we want the city to continue to grow in property values to, especially if we stop picking up lawn debris, they're gonna have more workload chasing lawn debris on the, unfortunately, it's gonna be the case. People are going to be trying to get away with not necessarily putting in their garbage cans or something of that nature. There's gonna be an increased workload. $56 for the benefit of a cleaner, healthier, better looking city, I think would probably pay back to our residents.
Like you said, we are growing, so, well, not gonna get any easier for anybody.
I don't think we need an action though on this right now, right?
It's a discussion.
This
It's kind of in a little of a budget workshop.
We do need guidance though to move forward as we get closer to our hearings, so.
Definitely.
And we discussed enough on the mulch, the guidance on that too, or we still on?
We don't know what to do with mulch.
I mean, as far as the ask for the .22, it's something to consider. That was for 2 times a year to mulch that pile. I would be, if we want to continue and recommend the service, I would recommend at least once a year to at least have a program still in place. Like I said, it's, this is why it's brought before council. You receive input from the citizens. I know it's been a very hot topic. So that is something to consider. The .22 is, basically 2 times a year to have that done. We can reduce that at least to continue at least doing that once. And that's something I would recommend, as a compromise to move forward.
So our .22 is now .11.
0.11.
And for a total of .25 mils, which is $100 a year to the average house, you get a code enforcement officer and you continue your yard debris pickup. Hey, we're wheeler dealers.
I think it's reasonable.
My only comment, I'm not in favor of raising millage rate at all. That's where I'm at. So, I understand we need lots of things. We need to do due diligence, try to find that with what we already have, would be my take on it, but we'll talk about it later on.
When was the last time we raised millage rate? Do you know, Rachel?
2 years ago?
It dropped, I guess, last year.
Well, last year it dropped, I know.
I think it was 2 years ago it went up.
Yeah, it was a couple years ago, it was 6.76.
So we still,
Well, it went up, it dropped. I don't know if it dropped below where it was before it went up.
I mean, you're paying more for milk. I'm paying more for milk.
Everybody is, sure.
Everybody's paying more, and it's
Well, we were just talking about electricity bills.
Yeah,
Which is
I
great-
mean,
great
so
electricity bills.
it's, we want to continue to maintain our city or really improve our city, because it has not been maintained, speaking specifically for code, it has not been maintained over the many, many years I've been here, or inconsistently, and that we need to pay for that.
Yeah, no, and I agree with that for sure, but.
I think it still puts us in millage rate below many of our neighbors. With arguably less.
And the Port Ritchie's always been higher, that doesn't, I don't care,
Well, Newport Richie has other things to offer.
In the growth scenario you talked about, is that not factored into some of this? Because that's going to bring in.
Yeah, but the growth is down the line, I mean, we're not gonna see that much.
Right.
Wow.
Now, again, you get, if these truly 1,400 residents do hit, you're gonna get that added revenue over the course, that's not gonna.
And we're gonna be hiring more people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've lived in Florida for a long time, and I've heard over and over again how growth is gonna save you money, and it never does. It always winds up costing money.
Correct. Theoretically, Newport Richie would be lower than us if growth saved money. But you can't stop growth
They have
either.
one big honking CRA though.
Can't stop growth either, that's the other thing, so.
Okay, anything? Anybody from Plug speak on that? Seeing no hands, we'll move on. Item number 9, lighting code discussion. I'll turn it over to Mr. LaCure for introduction.
Another easy one.
Save the best ones for
Another meeting.
Thank you, Mayor. For city council discussion is reviewing light codes and setting a standard for outdoor lighting throughout the city, limits for residential and commercial dwellings. The city attorney has researched and provided language from several other communities with lighting standards. The city council provide direction to the city attorney to draft an ordinance based on the language from other municipalities. We do understand that there was quite a bit for all of you to review. It's basically, we'd be starting from the ground up. We have no language at all, for lighting. So, just looking for your direction.
My direction is to table it to a future thing or in budget season. I mean, there's a lot of information.
It's a lot.
There's nobody, we're gonna sit here tonight and come anywhere close to coming to a consensus of what we need to do. Or exactly what needs to be done,
If anything.
If anything. And I'm not really inclined to sit around for, easily you can spend an hour just and be not any much closer than we are right now. I mean, right now, my main issue is budget.
This was an active topic. I just wanted to
I
understand.
understand. I very much
We appreciate
understand.
it, thank you for
And
continuing to
I'm
follow
not, I'm
us.
not saying kill it, I'm just saying, let's table this to a future date.
This spawned obviously from the Miller's Bayou light shining across the bayou. That's kind of where this kind of
Yeah,
started.
and there's a ton of other stuff in here that's completely different.
Right. My comments were going to be on this. Obviously, this is very comprehensive stuff about lumens and it's insane.
And you only have one code enforcement guy, so forget it.
You can't talk lights without lumens, you can't talk
Right.
sound without decibels. It doesn't have to.
And I guess I didn't know if we could approach this at a later time. I'm not talking about doing it now, but
Absolutely, that's up to you guys. If you want to table it to later time, my feelings will not be hurt. You asked for some stuff, I gave you the
Would,
information.
Put this in a file.
Yeah, I have no
Be-
problem.
being that it's
Can't
spawned.
sleep one night and you want to read it and then
Right.
come back together or something.
But if we were to put something together, very basic, don't shine your light on your neighbor's house across the bayou or something, just because I don't like regulations to this degree anyway.
If you want something very basic, that is.
Something that could be enforced, hey,
That's in the Pasco
point your lights
code.
I mean, that person,
That's the
apparently,
Pasco
I
code. They have
checked
a
into
very
this, the
basic
person was shining the lights, was night fishing on her own property. This is, and one person complained. I just don't see that this is right now what we need to focus on.
So we'll table it.
Okay. When you are ready, if you are, I'm.
Well, think.
Yes, Ashley, put all those pages in a bunch
You
of.
can't because
business, I
they have
guess,
to
for-
change the numbers.
Yeah, you can put it on old
Yeah,
business.
just put it on old business so we're tracking it and we'll come back to it later.
We'll extract this separately whenever we want to put it back on. We'll put it
Maybe
back
we'll
on.
take it home with us so we can read it when.
When you can't sleep.
When I'm bored.
It's a lot. It's very informative.
It is.
If you're
I know,
ever
I-
interested in it.
I looked through it, I
such a
didn't
thing.
read everything.
I've read many of them, I know what I'm looking at.
Okay,
So if I-
Last item, council business number 10, Citizens Advisory Committee, CAC resolution discussion. I'll pass it to Mr. LaCave for introduction.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At a previous city council meeting, the city council instructed the city attorney to review and revise the existing resolution 0411 that defines the role and responsibilities of the CAC. The city attorney has reviewed the resolution and needs direction on the proposed changes and additional language, especially under item 15 that defines powers, duties, and responsibilities.
If this is something you want to address tonight, I don't know how long it will take. I included the current resolution, 0411, which is 2 pages. It doesn't have a lot of procedural or much, it doesn't have a lot in it. So what I tried to do on after those 2 pages of the proposed resolution that I did take a liberty on one thing, and that's the stuff in red. Again, just a suggestion. Your CAC is quite large, so I was recommending making it smaller. Maybe, I think now you're finally at capacity, but you weren't. So that was kind of before you had the 2 new people. So that was just the only suggestion I took the liberty to make. But the biggest roadblock I had is when I look at the resolution for the CAC and what it indicates the purpose is to advise, to comment, and to make recommendations to City Council in matters of governance and planning for the city's future as requested by Council. I've never been to a CAC meeting. I've not needed to go. I've not been asked to go. But from what I'm hearing, that's not necessarily what the CAC does. Sounds to me like the CAC, they may do some of that if asked by Council to do something in the past, but it sounds also very much almost like a Chamber of Commerce thing where there's get-togethers and more city promotion. People do seem to come and talk about concerns in the city, and so that can be brought to you. But I think it needs more clarity and direction of what you want the CAC to do. I have a lot of concern about the sunshine and what the CAC is doing. So there's some things we need to talk about from what you want from that organization. So I don't know if that's something you guys want to do tonight at this hour or wait till after budget season to revisit.
Well, I mean, to me, the original resolution is fine. It's not particularly seems to be the way the CAC is functioning, so it's just a matter of getting the CAC to function the way the CAC was originally intended. I agree with you. I've been a firm believer for a long time that the bigger the group, the less you get done. And 9 members is big for any board, and so to reduce the members and have a couple alternates, you're going to have more meetings because you're going to be able to have a quorum easier, and I don't have a problem with that. I mean, that's not exactly a burning issue right now.
Well, let me, as the prior chair to the CAC, and I've been a member for 6 years or so, on and off. Well, I was only off for a short period of time. Yes, 9 members is a lot, but those 9 members have done a lot. The 9 members have put the book libraries all around the city. It has been kept up, but that was started by them. The CAC has painted the kiosk at Nix Park. The CAC started the Meet Your Neighbors to try to promote people talking to each other from different parts of the city. We're separated by 19, we're separated by the river. The CAC took on, without direction from the council, renaming the Waterfront Overlay District, which I thought was the stupidest name in WOD.
Well, no. No, WOD is nothing more than a zoning code.
I know.
People might have called it that,
Right.
but nobody.
Well, that's what it was
named
always
that.
called when I was here. So we took on that and we went by ourselves and we didn't name it. Let me to correct that. The citizens named it by, and I have all the data at home if you'd like to see it, of all the different names that were, presented. And it was always by vote. So it was named Dakota River Landing. So the CAC has done a lot, but it was never at the direction of council. That is 100% correct. So I think the CAC does need to have a clear direction as to where you want us to go. What do you want us to do? We didn't have direction before, so we made our own direction. So that's what this is about, is how do we want to proceed? Or how do we want to tell them to go?
I agree. I think we have to clarify their mission.
Well, it's right, number 9.
Well, wait, let me finish first. If we as a council only want them to give advice, do nothing about or take a poll or whatever the case is, which is what this is, how this is written. All they are to do is advise. Then we lose, I agree it should go down to 5 members. However, the CAC is very popular with the city right now in what they do. They help with the painting various structures, cleanups. They do much more than what this resolution says, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but should be then codified accordingly that within the city's direction, yes, you can do this. And to that end, I agree it should be a larger organization because then you want more members in, you want everyone to feel inclusive, and you want to go from there. So we as a council have to decide which direction or both directions,
Well,
yes.
And again, to your point, the original resolution under 9 specifically says the purpose and function of the CAC is to advise, to comment, to make recommendations to city council in matters of governance, planning a city, features requested by city council, blah, blah, blah. Hear input from citizens, hence Citizens Advisory Committee. That's one function. What you're talking about is really a completely different function. Now, we formed this committee by resolution. We can form another committee by resolution. That's basically the clean up, put up book
Here's the
things
thing
and all
you run
that stuff.
into when you get, if we're having a hard time filling committees as it is, so if we're gonna add another committee.
I just find the two different activities incongruent.
Well, why can't we have 2 activities in one committee?
No,
Citizens Advisory and Action Committee. Wow, I just renamed it. and I
okay,
just,
fine, yeah, do that.
I'm
No, I'm not saying, okay, fine, do that.
I'm just trying to, we gotta codify what their mission is, because right now they have scope creep, for lack of a better term, and they have mission creep, and they have a lot of members who are actually looking, what is it that you want from us? I'm not sure we know what we want from them exactly.
If I could add, and I think the biggest point of contention here is when it talks about number 9, it ends in saying, as requested by the city council. And I think that's read as, well, we don't do anything unless the council directs. But as you go back up, when you talk about when the resolution was created and all the whereas statements, it talks about the continued flow of thoughtful information, suggestions, critical government process. Recognizes, supports public participation. City council desires to establish this committee to aid in this process.
Fast for people.
Oh, sorry. Aid in this process of public participation, information gathering. So, when I read the way this structure is set up, the Citizens Advisory Committee should be proactively engaging the citizens. That should be, and I even see it as districts or whatever, you'd have representation, not all concentrated within one part of the city, but you'd have representation around the city so that all citizens have a conduit. Hey, here's Dave Mueller. He's on the Citizens Advisory Committee. Let me tell him what's going on. Dave comes to the meeting. Dave says, here's what I'm hearing from my, and then, your area, you, same thing. And so you guys collectively as a body capture all that, get it in front of us so that we can act on it, right? And so we don't have to ask for it. We expect it. And when we come down to the boards committees section, we should have somebody from the Citizens Advisory Committee, whether it's the liaison or the chair, basically say, here, and share the minutes, and here's what we've talked about. And so that's the one big part I think that there was some confusion. It's not sitting around, although number 9 does kind of allude to that you don't do anything unless we direct. But I think the purpose here was much more than that, was to continue to have that information coming in. And then also if we direct some special thing like mulching thing, do a survey, then we ask them to do that, and they go forward and do that. But I think they should be constantly engaging the public, or the public should constantly engage them to bring that stuff in a collective fashion to us, just as it reads. And then we have something that they've produced that we can act on and fit into our process. That's the first part. To Todd's thing, there are some other things that are positive that they do as well. The meet and greets, doing the community things. I think all that is good. And I think they should continue doing that. So I think it should be a combined, again, I'm not for creating a committee just to put silos in different places. I think that's well within the scope of the CAC was to be doing those things as well. So I'm for that. With that, I definitely don't want to reduce the size of it. I think 9's a good number. The only thing that I would be thinking if we wanted to incorporate 2 alternates in there is do 7 and then 2 alternates. And when I think of alternate, they're a fully functioning member of the committee. It's just if something came to a vote, they wouldn't vote unless it was.
Why would you go?
Well, because you're still an active member, and at least the Pasco County CAC for the MPO board does. Their alternates participate, they're heard, they can talk. They just don't vote unless the primaries pass it. So
My only concern, I mean, with 9 members, quorum is 5.
Right.
4 people could drop out and you could still have a meeting at any month or whatever. So with such a large membership board, I'm not sure you need the alternates because theoretically, if a 7-member board, then you're going to need 4 members present. 3 could drop out, but you would have to hope that one of the 2 alternates then show up, theoretically. It's a numbers game. It's almost the same either way, just from a quorum standpoint. I don't know about a participation standpoint, but from a quorum standpoint, it's the same.
And you probably know since you've been on a long time, what was the percentage of meetings that you didn't meet quorum? I mean,
Honestly, I think probably, that was during COVID that we did have to cancel a lot. I was trying to think that, like people couldn't make it and stuff like that. But prior to that, it was very few. We usually communicate, I can't make it, I can't make it, I can't make it. And so then we would cancel it prior to people showing up. But the majority of the time, with the 9 members, we were able to have a meeting for the majority of the time. I would say a good 90% of the time, 85% of the time. 9 wasn't a problem, and everybody, we all seem to work well together, in my opinion. The only thing I would say is, I've been thinking about this, obviously, since I've been involved. And I kind of see this as a town hall, because that's what it's been. People come in, and whether it's, we all talk about the issues that we've heard from in our residents, or somebody comes and presents, which is very rare. We don't have a big audience. We don't have any audience. They don't come. Some people came. But I kind of see this as not functioning as just by the request of the city council, but as a request of the citizens. And again, one person does not mean the chair should bring it to the council because somebody doesn't like the purple this or the whatever. It needs to be, one person brought it up, but yes, it is a problem. So I see it kind of as a town hall.
and actually, town hall, my thought process was on town hall that the CAC would be something they sponsored. We would go to it, it would be an open forum, and it would be more than just a CAC meeting. It would be a kind of meet and greet, but it'd be the town hall. It'd be a kind of a thing they put on as well. It's kind of what I originally thought.
I think this forum leads for a lot more interaction between the people. Sometimes town halls, people get a little gun shy, where this is so informal. This is a more informal setting that people have, my opinion, but that's neither here nor there, but, so. And I like the 9 members, but again, I'm open to whatever. I just think the more people we have on there, the more input we have, and the more we can move forward.
So I think if we clarify that, what you have in blue there, so it's not, requested by the council, but that's the one thing. And then we'll leave the membership the same. Is there anything else that go ahead and codify the community stuff as well in there? And then the application, that looks good. Basically anything that starts the process.
And that's what I know now you don't need it so much for the CAC because you're now at capacity for membership. But I also realize with the P&Z, and I know the Board of Adjustment hasn't met, but I don't think there's anything like that for any of your boards. It's cities use it, some don't. It's just an option. It gives you more than just someone showing up and hi, I'm Nancy Meyer.
Yeah, it seemed a little
It's a lot, it's a lot, but I gave you one that I thought was full, so you could decide what you want on it, what you don't want on it, if you wanted it all. Just giving you options.
Yeah, for my opinion, for the CAC, I think an application is a good idea, I agree, so at least we know who's joining, if we don't personally know them, but maybe employment history and or education, military experience is not really that relevant to the CAC.
Right.
It may be more relevant to planning and
Sure,
zoning.
yes.
Or something of that nature, so I agree with the concept of it, I think we want to make sure we get, to me, for the CAC, it should be, the first part, eliminate the education and employment, and what is your volunteer
Well, I
experience?
mean,
So at
you're
least-
looking to encourage participation.
Right.
You're not looking to turn it into a job interview.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my concern. It was just, I thought.
Under instead of all the set out questions for volunteer experience, just why do you want to join? And have them, just give them a
why do you
spot
wanna
to go
join?
in.
About the CAC, yeah. I had a question, I lost it.
Yeah, I mean, I like any experience that relate to this, it might be helpful. I mean,
The only other one that I would add is maybe we do want to know of any felony arrests or convictions, because some of the CAC members do work around houses and other things, and you don't want to be a conduit.
They can't hold on to this if they're a felon.
Do we have in here, I don't recall, I'm trying to breeze through and I can't recall, did we put in there that they have to be a resident for a year?
I
read it over, a couple days ago, so I don't recall, and I'm trying to breeze through. I would say that they need to be a resident for a year.
Yeah,
I think
I
it's,
agree with
it
that.
should be in there.
Okay, yeah, if it's not in there, Nancy, I think I would put that in there.
And this was, I was writing it as, like modifying, not replace, not rescinding the old one, so the original would still be out there.
Yes.
So I don't think that the resolution I started drafting has that, because it's in the original.
Okay, okay.
We can rescind the old one and do a new one if that's what you prefer.
Yeah, no,
This
that's
was if you wanted to change anything, this would add to that original resolution.
Well, that is a change to 1 year, because it's just. all
No, I
set.
don't think so, I think we
I think that was in there, but I mean.
That just says, number 7, to extent applicable CSC appointment, 6, qualifications shall include residency in the city and commitment to spending time required for CSC. It doesn't have a time frame.
I mean, how can
That'd be
you,
that.
I would say,
That's
yeah, I
fine.
mean, you can't really comment on something just,
Yeah, 1 year. So what, we got there?
that's what I think anyway.
Sounds logical.
Okay, so add the 1 year residency, remove as requested by council, leave it at 9.
Do we want 9 just regular members or 7 and 2 alternates?
Yes, that's what heck doesn't matter, I'll just leave it at 9, this way, they show up, they can vote.
Sounds good. I'm good with that.
Do you want to include some kind of language like you have for P and Z with the, and if council asks you to do anything else, you'll do that too?
I think it should be in
Yes.
there, but not as as a caveat that that's all we do is per council.
I think in this planning zone, it's just anything directed by council is another item.
It's a separate statement. Yeah. This is what you're doing and anything directed. All right, then.
Do we want to include anything to cover the neighborhood cleanups or anything of that nature in terms of a blessing by council to do that, or?
Like a general statement of just promote community
Betterment of the
activities and
community.
whatever, something like that,
That's good.
as they see fit.
I'll get something together and bring it to you.
Thank you.
That's all the council business, the old business. We have some things on here, I think they're all updated. Anybody else want to discuss anything old business wise?
That's pretty comprehensive.
Do we want to add that, do we sign on the other thing we tabled, so we add to here?
Yeah.
If you, that's okay, it's a tabled for future council meeting. Okay, that being said, look for a motion.
Motion adjourned.
Second.
Who's second?
I'm
We'll give Todd a second. Got a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned.